There is something inside you right now that should never have remained there. It is not a personality trait. It is not who you are. It is a knot, a tightness in the chest, a weight in the stomach, a wall between you and the life you know you were meant to live. And the person who placed it there may not even remember doing it. But you remember? You carry it every single day. Jesus knew this. He understood it in a way that went far beyond moral theology or religious obligation. He understood that what human beings call unforgiveness is not a spiritual flaw. It is a physical and energetic, not tied into the structure of the soul. And he had a specific Aramaic word both for the knot and for the act of undoing it. That word was never translated into your Bible the way he originally spoke it. What you received instead was a simplified and moralized version of something that was originally a precise energetic instruction. The word is shubkalan. And the moment you understand what it truly means in the language Jesus actually spoke, the entire concept of forgiveness will transform inside your body, not just your mind. This teaching is not about how to become a better person. It is about how to become free. To understand shubkalan, you must first understand how ancient Aramaic encodes reality differently from any modern Western language. In English, the word forgive is built upon a moral and relational framework. It implies a wrongdoing, a judgment, a decision to release someone from the debt of that wrongdoing. The entire architecture of the concept points outward toward another person, toward their actions, toward your evaluation of whether they deserve forgiveness. It is fundamentally a transaction between two parties, mediated by conscience and moral will. Shubkalan operates in a completely different dimension. Its Aramaic root, shbak, carries a range of meanings that have no direct equivalent in English. It means to loosen, to untie, to release what has been bound, to allow blocked flow to move again. It is the same root used to describe the untying of a rope, the freeing of a trapped animal, the opening of a sealed container. When Jesus used this word in the Lord's Prayer, in the phrase most translations render as forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors, he was not asking for moral forgiveness. He was describing a mutual energetic process of untying. That distinction changes everything. The moral framework of forgiveness, as most people have learned it, places an enormous burden on the person who was harmed. It demands that the individual perform an act of will, that they decide, through effort and virtue, to release their legitimate pain. Many people spend years, even decades, trying to forgive through sheer willpower, only to discover that the knot is still present in the body, still restricting the breath, still shaping every subsequent relationship. Shubkalan does not require you to force anything through your will. It invites you into a living vibrational process of release, a process Jesus understood as natural, available, and already in motion the moment it is consciously engaged. And the difference between these two approaches is the difference between straining to force open a door and simply turning the handle. The body keeps marks. This is a truth modern neuroscience has been documenting for decades. Unresolved emotional experiences do not simply disappear from memory. They settle into the body as physical patterns. Tension in the jaw, constriction in the throat, chronic tightness in the chest or shoulders, a persistent heaviness in the lower abdomen. These are not metaphors. They are measurable physiological realities, and they correspond precisely to what the Aramaic tradition referred to as knots. The root meaning of shubkalan, shbak, understood as a literal energetic constriction inside the human system. Jesus lived in a world where the separation between body, soul, and spirit was not as absolute as later Western thought would characterize it. In the Aramaic worldview that shaped his teachings, a knot in the soul was simultaneously a knot in the body. Of unhealed relational wounds could consciously be restored. An unresolved wound between two people was not merely a psychological event. It was a tangible interruption in the flow of divine energy through both individuals. When Jesus spoke of shubkalan, he was speaking directly to this integrated reality. He described a process through which divine flow, blocked by the accumulated tension of unhealed relational wounds, could consciously be restored. That is why the Lord's Prayer connects the release of others directly to your own release. The Aramaic structure of the phrase reveals something the English translation obscures. The untying happens simultaneously. As the knot between you and another person begins to loosen, the knot inside your own system loosens in the same movement. You are not performing a generous act for someone who hurt you. You are participating in your own liberation and theirs through the same conscious act of untying knots. Many people resist forgiveness because they fear it means admitting the harm was acceptable. Shubkalan carries no such implication. Untying a knot does not pretend it never existed. It simply restores the flow. The knot was interrupting within you first and most immediately. The words of Jesus in Aramaic opened different pathways back into divine alignment. Each one represents a frequency capable of restoring something fragmented within human consciousness. And what most people never discover is that one specific Aramaic vibration was once considered forbidden in certain ancient mystical circles. And in the next chapters, I will reveal why some believed its sound alone could influence the human mind and spirit. The Aramaic-speaking communities that preserved the earliest teachings of Jesus understood shubkalan as a practice, not merely a concept to believe in, but a vibrational process to actively enter into. In those communities, spoken words were never ornamental. Sound, in the Aramaic tradition, was understood as carrying functional power, the ability to reorganize the energetic architecture of the human system when spoken with full conscious intention. That is why Jesus consistently spoke commands aloud, even when he could presumably have acted silently. The sound itself was part of the mechanism of transformation. The practice of shubkalan within these early communities involved a deliberate sequence of breath, intention, and vocalization. The practitioner would first bring into awareness the person or situation that created the knot, not to relive the wound, but to locate it precisely within the body. Where does it reside? In the chest, in the throat, in the stomach. This location was understood as the address of the knot, the exact point where divine flow had been interrupted. Once located, breath was used to soften the area, not to force it open, but to signal to the body that release was safe and welcome. Then the word shubkalan would be spoken, not shouted, not whispered, but resonating through the chest in a sustained and even tone. The Aramaic tradition held that certain words, when pronounced correctly, create physical resonance in specific regions of the body. Shubkalan, with its deep consonants, an open final syllable, was understood to resonate precisely in the chest and abdomen, the areas where relational knots most commonly settle. The sound was not symbolic. In the understanding of these communities, it was directly functional. Jesus used this understanding not as hidden esoteric knowledge reserved for initiates, but as a practical teaching available to anyone willing to engage with it. Shubkalan was, in his hands, a tool of everyday liberation, available at any moment, without requiring a special place, ritual preparation, or institutional permission. By now, you have probably noticed how difficult some of these ancient Aramaic pronunciations are to fully reproduce through IA narration alone. These sounds carry subtle vibrations and meanings that are not easy to preserve through a single listening. That is why I prepared 3 study guides containing the original Aramaic text, pronunciation support, transliterations, and deeper symbolic interpretations. If you want to study these teachings in greater depth, the link is in the description and pinned comment. There is a dimension of shubkalan that transcends the personnel. It goes beyond the specific wound, inflicted by a specific person at a specific moment in your life. Jesus placed this teaching within the Lord's Prayer not as a private spiritual exercise, but as a communal and even cosmic act. The Aramaic structure of the prayer consistently uses plural forms: Our Father, give us, release us, as we release. This was intentional. Shubkalan is understood to operate not only within individual bodies, but between people, within families, across generations, and through the invisible relational fabric that connects all human souls. Modern research into epigenetics has begun documenting what the Aramaic tradition intuitively understood. Emotional patterns, unresolved trauma, and relational wounds can be transmitted across generations through biological and energetic inheritance. What Aramaic communities referred to as ancestral knots, interwoven energies passed from parent to child, generation after generation, through bloodlines and behavioral patterns, is now being mapped in the human genome as inherited stress signatures. Jesus, in teaching shubkalan, was offering a practice capable of operating precisely at this level. When you engage shubkalan with conscious intention, you are not merely releasing a personal knot. You may be interrupting a pattern that has been propagating through your lineage for years, perhaps decades, perhaps centuries. The person who hurts you often carried a knot, inherited from someone who hurt them. The chain of trapped energy stretches backward beyond any single life, and the act of untying knots, when practiced with full awareness of this reality, becomes something far larger than personal healing. It becomes an act of ancestral liberation, a moment in which the entire chain begins to unravel. Jesus understood human suffering with this depth of vision. He did not teach shubkalan as a solution for individual grievance. He taught it as a cosmic mechanism, a way of consciously and actively participating in the healing of the relational fabric of humanity itself. The practical application of shubkalan does not require a formal ritual or a specific sacred space. Jesus modeled a spirituality that was completely portable, accessible in the middle of everyday life, in ordinary moments, without the need for temple, priest, or elaborate preparation. The practice of shubkalan follows this same principle. It is designed for the moment when the knot feels most alive, when the memory suddenly, when the person's name appears in your mind, when the body tightens for no apparent reason. Begin by becoming still, not in the sense of physical immobility, but in the sense of turning your full attention inward. Allow the person, the event, or the wound to be present in your awareness without trying to analyze or immediately solve it. Simply let it exist. The same way you allow a cloud to exist in the sky without trying to grasp it. While holding that awareness, notice where the corresponding sensation appears in your body. Place one hand gently over that location. This is the knot shubkalan addresses. Breathe slowly into that area. Do not force the breath, but consciously guide it there, as though you were directing warm water toward a tense muscle. As you breathe into that space, allow the breath to soften whatever it encounters. Do not demand that the knot dissolve immediately. Simply signal through the breath that you are willing for it to begin loosening. Then, on a slow exhale, speak the word shubkalan, sustained, resonant, from the chest. Let the vibration of the word move through the area beneath your hand. Repeat this at least 3 times. Many practitioners report a physical sensation of release, warmth, a spontaneous deep breath, a softening in the chest or abdomen within the first 2 or 3 repetitions. This is not imagination. It is the body responding to a vibrational frequency that Jesus understood and used with precision, and it is fully available to you at any moment for the rest of your life. Every teaching Jesus offered in Aramaic ultimately returns to the same fundamental truth. You were created for freedom, not the freedom that arrives after years of struggle, or the freedom that depends on other people changing, or the freedom that requires perfect circumstances. The freedom that is already yours, encoded into your soul, waiting beneath every knot that life, relationships, and unhealed history have tied inside you. Shubkalan is not a technique for coping with wounds. It is a key Jesus placed into the hands of every human being in the language he actually spoke, before that language was translated into something smaller and easier to manage. The knots you carry today are real. The people who created them caused real harm, and the invitation of shubkalan is not to minimize that reality or spiritually bypass it. It is to recognize that the knot is costing you something no wound is worth. Your flow, your vitality, your ability to move through the world as the sovereign and divinely authorized being Jesus always insisted you already are. When you speak shubkalan, you are not surrendering your boundaries or erasing your history. You are reclaiming the energy that was trapped inside that history energy that belongs to your present and your future, not to a wound that has already happened. You are doing exactly what Jesus did when he stood before suffering and imprisoned people and spoke words of release into the places where limitation had settled. The divine flow shubkalan restores does not belong to anyone who hurt you. It belongs to you. It always did. And at this very moment, it is waiting for you to turn the key. Visit the Divine Light Academy through the link below to access my guides and begin your journey into the living language of the Masters. But before you go, I want to hear from you. What did you feel during this session? Comment the word awakening below if you felt a shift in your energy today. We read every response, and your testimony strengthens this entire community of light. Right now, before you close this video, go into the comments and tell us, what did you feel? What changed? We read every response, and if this teaching reached you today, subscribe to this channel. Every week, we dive deeper into the ancient frequency codes that were always meant for you. We are only beginning to explore this ancestral power. Prepare yourself, because in the next video I will reveal even deeper Aramaic codes that unlock a spiritual authority you never imagined. Make sure you are subscribed and have notifications turned on, so you do not miss this revelation.